going to tell people that.
Oh, no, yeah, I just decided.
Well, tell the people that want to come out. Download, we just want to get people like we're going to start. Like we're like 2 minutes ago. 2 minutes.
All right, ready to go.
Now that
It's not. It's 9. It's 9.
That means we should be on mic.
Last week.
You did it last week?
I did. We should have Darren.
You did it last week?
I did.
You sure you did it last week?
I did.
Did Dara do it last week? Good morning and welcome to 1 Million Cups. This is the pre-Thanksgiving Day edition. My name's Eric Renz Whitmore. I'm one of the hosts. Can we have the other people of the hosting team or the organizing team raise their hands? And I'll try not to make this thing make a big loud squeal. Yes, we got Dara, we've got Nick, we've got Steve, we've got Charles who helped check people in. Speaking of checking in, one of the things that we're trying to do with not just this at 1 Million Cups, but other events and activities around our ecosystem is to try and get a better handle on who's participating, how they're participating, and how we can help them grow their business and get involved with the rest of the community. So you'll be seeing a little bit more of this. If you want to make it easier on yourselves and us, a great thing to do is to download the Meetup app. If you'll join our meetup, and it's easy to find, did I write it down? I was in the middle of writing it down here. But basically, if you go to bit.ly, 1mcabq_meet, and we'll publish that, and I'll probably write it on the board. If you go there, you'll find our meetup. Just go ahead and sign in, and it's a way that we can add opportunities to meet other people in the community and make things happen. So let's see, a couple more things, a couple more notes before we kick things off. So first of all, this is a part of now 77 different 1 Million Cups operations around the country. Last week, if you were here, you saw the outcome of kind of the previous year with a thing called 1 in a Million, where we're with 1 in a Million, with like three different presenters from around the country who came together in Kansas City during Global Entrepreneurship Week to present and win some prizes and some other kinds of good stuff. But it's kind of this great community. One of the things that we as other communities have found is that we want to bring people together. And for a lot of our communities, people who are, they're hard at work in different aspects of their business, they can't necessarily go to each and every different meetup and activity that's happening around town. So we like to think of this in some ways as like a little bit of a welcome wagon, where you don't have to come every week, but if you know other people who are new to the community or need resources or need to connect with somebody, this is a nice way of finding those kinds of people. And we, with the organizing group, we want to help you do that. But enough about all that good stuff. So this morning, and we've actually wanted to have boomtime in for a little while, but boomtime's in the middle of some exciting things. Boomtime is a local startup. We're going to hear a little bit more about that, and we're going to hear from their CEO, Mark Cannon. Welcome, Mark Cannon, with Boomtime.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So my name is Mark Cannon. I'm the CEO of Boomtime. I came to Boomtime about 2 years ago. Boomtime's been around for actually about 8.5 years. And what we do is we help people get noticed in a noisy world. We're focused on basically helping small businesses reach more customers in a cost-effective way. Most of our customers can't afford to buy media. And what we do is we help them basically do that in an affordable way. But I mean, the core thing is, we're no different than the businesses that we serve. We're a small business, and we have the same challenges that they do, which is getting noticed. And at the end of the day, when you think about small businesses in a city like Albuquerque or any other city, what you find is that most of them actually don't have the time to do the kind of stuff that we do for them. Most of them don't have the money to buy traditional media. And so for them, the real challenge is trying to figure out a way to reach a much broader audience and to get their story across to them. And so all of our products really revolve around helping those businesses basically, get to the customers they want in a cost-effective way. And the core of what we do is a product called Reach, which is it's an email network product that basically takes groups of businesses, collects their email addresses, and manages them as a virtual email address system. They're all kept separately, but they can cross-promote to each other's customers. And so if you look at Albuquerque, there are about 400,000 viable consumers in Albuquerque from a small business standpoint. And we have about 300,000 of them in the networks that we have right now. So every month we send out 300,000 email promotions to small businesses, to consumers in Albuquerque. And we do it at about 10% of the cost of traditional media. So if these people were to buy traditional media in the marketplace, they'd wind up spending somewhere between $500 and $2,000 a month. And that includes digital media like Google AdWords and stuff like that. And so what we do basically is we leverage the asset that they have, because these people are actually the largest media operation in Albuquerque. They're just distributed in a way that makes it very difficult for them to, to basically reach their customers. So you can think of us as essentially kind of like Airbnb for customers. Our businesses have a resource that they're not using as well as they should. So Eric asked me to talk with you a little bit about my background. So I came 2 years ago after Bill Bice and Seth Garden-Schwartz, besieged me for about a year. Before that, I had run the Yellow Pages in the United Kingdom for about 5 years. And I'm probably the only person who's been on both sides of this. In the mid-90s, I started a site called switchboard.com that wound up being the largest independent Yellow Pages without a sales force. And I wound up selling my traffic to the incumbents. And then years later, I wound up actually running a dinosaur Yellow Pages company for about 5 years and built about a $200 million a year business in digital marketing services for small businesses in about 4.5 years. So, as I said, we are really no different than our customers. It's very difficult for us to get noticed as well. If you think about the small businesses in Albuquerque, I mean, there are 10,000 telemarketers in the US who make 100 calls a day into small businesses. So 1 million calls a day trying to sell the types of products that we sell. So the noise is very, very loud. And almost every one of these customers has been disappointed, it's probably the nicest word to use, by their experiences with the people who have gotten through to them on the phone, sold them these products, made them promises that they couldn't keep, right? And so for us, a big part of our challenge is basically getting these businesses to actually notice us. And so you will see these things here. I don't know how many people have seen any of the, what I now call pop art sculptures as opposed to bombs, because that turned out to be seriously politically incorrect. And I spent most of last week, talking with media people and explaining to them that the genesis of this was Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, not some nefarious plot on our part. So these things actually will be going back out on Friday. We're doing a big charity drive in Albuquerque against a site called makeandboom.com, and we have 8 local charities and 8 local artists who are basically decorating the bombs as we speak. I'm a little bit blurry today because I was up till about 2 o'clock last night, herding the artistic cats in a facility near here. I mean, but I think the key point about what we do, and the key point I'd really like to make is that, getting noticed for a startup is actually very, very difficult, right? There are no lack of ways that people try to get noticed, but it's very, very difficult to get potential customers to actually understand who you are, because it's not just small businesses, it's every business gets inundated by people trying to sell them their products, and honestly, they can't really differentiate in many cases, between one product and another, because it's all, for small businesses, it's all kind of a blur, to be honest with you. And even for enterprise sales, the bottom line is it's just tough to penetrate these organizations. I mean, there's a whole industry of people who basically help you, set appointments on the phone. But the bottom line is that you got to figure out a way to break out of that, and to create enough differentiation. And that's why we put together the sculptures, is because even though we have purchased outdoor media, the sculptures are unforgettable. Everybody who sees one remembers what it was, and ultimately, they all wind up coming back to our site and to us. And it has substantially increased our ability to basically have a conversation with, with small businesses in Albuquerque, because they say, oh, you're the guys behind the bombs, right? And, and we say, yes, we are. And then we find out where they stand on the spectrum of behind the bombs. But the point I guess I'm really trying to make is that, one of the most important things for any startup is to figure out where they sit in that landscape and how they position themselves for the customers that they're trying to reach. And it's very difficult to, it's very dangerous to underestimate the extent to which your customers will kind of lump you together, with people who might do exactly what you do and people who might do something that, sounds kind of like what you do, and people who do things that have absolutely nothing to do with what you do. And so, you know, one of the things that happens with startups is that they tend to invest in their marketing efforts, and they tend to underthink this because most startups are product startups. We're a service and product startup, and they tend to think that their product speaks for itself, and actually they need to actually have somebody speak for their product, and it's usually them. It's very difficult. You know, this is kind of an opposable mind problem, right? You know, you've got these two conflicting things. Well, if you just knew my product, you'd buy it from me, right? And that, unfortunately, is not, you know, the case. So, you know, if you're running a startup, one of the things that you have to start thinking about from the very beginning is how am I going to basically break through the noise in the marketplace that I'm operating in, and how am I going to basically differentiate my products? Because in a lot of cases, I mean, maybe not so much in enterprise sales, but in a lot of cases, you know, our focus is more on getting people to understand than it is on getting people to believe, right? And for most customers that you have, getting them to believe is frequently more important than getting them to understand in the initial, you know, conversation that you have with the customer, right? You know, there is a level of kind of credibility, seriousness, you know, applicability, you know, that you have to basically break through in order for them to actually understand what it is that you're selling and what the value is to that customer. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about this because we have the same problem that everybody else does and that all of you have. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if you can't break through the noise, then you're not going to get the customer, right? And so, you know, what I would, you know, my message, I guess, today is to encourage you to basically put this pretty much at the front of what you do. You know, everybody's, you know, who's in this room knows about products, okay? Knows about building them, knows about services, know what they're good at doing. The problem is that the people are trying to reach don't. Is my 6 minutes up?
You have like either 29 seconds that you're over or under.
Yeah.
But,
well, as the people who know me in this room will tell you, this is a record. Okay. Okay.
Wait, so should we talk to the people who know him in this room? First of all, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And do we have any questions? Miriam, all good questioners.
I actually know what you do, but from that presentation, I don't know what you do.
Okay.
So what is it you actually are selling?
So we sell the product that I talked with you about, the Reach products. That is our primary product, right? So
You
we.
said it shares.
Yeah, so what happens is that we basically collect groups we put together networks of merchants who have demographic or geographic similarities, and every month we issue an email from each one of them to their customer base. So their ad goes at the top, all the other promotions go underneath. We round robin that until we've reached, you know, all the way around. And we use the emails in the network as a currency, so everybody who joins gets 5 times as many email contacts as they bring into the system, right? So it's a very cost-effective way for somebody with 1,000 emails to reach 5,000 people, right? And we get very high open rates because they're coming from people that the consumer, you know, businesses that the consumer knows, right? And we also build really very nice websites, because really, if you think about our customers, they really have to do 3 things. They have to collect the identities of their customers, right? And we have tools for that, a product called Collect. They have to then reach those customers, which is the product I talked about, and then they have to basically establish their brand, which in the world that we live in is a 30-second experience on a mobile device where you don't get any second chances. So if you don't hit them and they don't feel right about it right away, because no one reads anymore, right? You know, so all of the information in your website, for the first 30 seconds, it makes no difference at all. If you get past the 30 seconds, you might get 90 more seconds. If you get past that and you've got a lot of content, then you've got somebody who's interested in what you do.
So, are you in some ways a traditional advertising and public relations firm that's serving companies to craft brand identity and to
No. No, so basically the way that we do it, I guess in a way we do that, because basically we have a very, very structured intake process. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, so the question was whether or not we actually act as a kind of traditional agency in terms of, creating brands and positioning for our customers. And we do that to the extent that the process that we use to build our websites is a highly structured process. The customer spends about 45 minutes on the phone with us, and we take them through what is essentially a decomposition of their business in order to basically build the architecture of the site in a way that basically gets their point across and also emphasizes the things that are most important in it. So in that sense, we kind of fold in, what traditional agencies do when they sit down with people. And, one of the things that we're trying to do is level the playing field for our customers, because they're competing with people who are paying, a lot of money to agencies to do exactly the same thing that we, as we're doing in a much more kind of compressed and compact way. And so we get very high fidelity. And this was what I did when I ran Yellow. I mean, I built a business building, when I left Yellow, we were building 5,000 websites a month for businesses in the UK, right? And we did it by building a highly structured, process where we were basically able to extract the precise information that we needed in order to build a site that would really work for them. As one of my customers once said to me, well, if they just knew me, they'd be my customers. And that's the challenge.
So just to follow up, when you use the word fidelity, maybe that's some word that everybody here has exactly the interpretation. What do you mean?
Well, if you take a traditional, the traditional website, creation process, what happens is that, and particularly in large media organizations, a sales guy, takes in information, the way that they hear, they write it down maybe, right? They toss it over the wall at a designer who has their own agenda, and by the time it gets back to the customer, it doesn't resemble anything like the customer expected to get from that business, right? And so, typically Yellow Pages companies in the U.S. have a 50% rejection rate on the websites that they build because they don't have an integrated process, and they don't have high fidelity. They don't get the information that they need to build the site in a way that when they show it back to the customer goes, yeah, that's what I said.
To preface this question, I had a conversation with Bill Weiss about this campaign.
Yep.
And he told me, I learned a lot about your organization, because in ways we're competitors and in ways we're actually not.
Yep.
One of the things that I asked him, though, and he told me about the bomb concept. I said, sometimes there's some people that are not coherent or like smart enough to understand it's a prop, not an actual bomb. And so, and this was like 3
Yeah,
weeks
I've
ago.
met a couple of those people last week.
And so about 4 weeks ago, we had this conversation, and now I've seen stories about the campaign.
Yeah.
I know that you're working with a really fantastic public relations firm too. But what type of, especially with Paris, that just happened recently.
Yeah.
What type of negative or positive publicity have you received, and what did you do to still keep the reputation of Boomtime?
Sure. Well, I mean, it didn't take very long for the media to figure out who was doing this stuff, right? And so they started calling me early last week. KOAT, I think, was the first one, and there was a fair amount of noise, on their boards, about this stuff. But is frequently the case, and this is one of the reasons that my faith in humanity remains strong. The people who were saying negative things were essentially neutralized by the people who are saying you've got to be kidding. And then last week, another gentleman, who was quoted in the Albuquerque News article, a journal article, basically made a lot of noise. And so I did an interview with, Rick Nathanson, who's one of the reporters there. And what I did was I had my talking points. I mean, look, a lot of communication when you're talking to the media has to do with understanding exactly what you want to say to them and being able to redirect the conversation, right? So I did, and it came out balanced, right? Yeah.
I read the article in the journal, positive comments and negative reaction to your sculptures.
Yeah.
And I wondered, did you all consider the possibility of there being negative reaction? The second question, you're using the word we. Who are you besides you?
Okay. The answer to the first question is yes, we did, but we decided that it was a relatively, minimal, risk. And obviously Paris, and the tragedy that happened there, changed the rules of the game a little bit, right? And we are a company of 25 people, they're over in the Verge building, and then we have a development and website operation in Cebu in the Philippines. Does that answer the we question? Okay.
All right, Nicole, and then I think we got, yeah.
Yeah, so we get about a 20 to 25% open rate on the emails that we send out, which is, which is consistent with like a nonprofit, right? So, the good news is that, and we won't take a customer. This is going to sound funny, but we fire customers, right? So if you're not willing to, what we say to our customers is that you have to pay your customers, whether they're a customer you want to get or whether they're a customer that you want to have come back, right? And the way that you pay them, the currency that you use, is to transfer value to them, right? Because they understand the value of your products, and when they see a bundle or package or a discount, they do the calculation very quickly. And so if we work with somebody who's not willing to do that, generally speaking, we say, look, this isn't going to work for you, and we really don't want to take your money, right? And so it works because, we are slowly but surely training our customers, to understand the rules of engagement when you are trying to get new customers. Yeah?
Right, I think, it was you? Sure, yeah, in reference to the first question, if I heard you correctly, you said you don't get a customer's attention in the first 30 seconds on a website.
Yeah.
What patterns have you recognized that would keep a customer messages?
Yeah, well, so the way that it works now, because 70% of the traffic that our customers get, and this is, I think, true in general, comes from mobile devices. About 10% of it is tablets, and about 60% of it is phones. And so, what you have to do is you basically have, we are moved into a graphics-intensive world, right? People will not read the words on the page, right? So it's changed the copywriting, and it's put a much higher emphasis on the information architecture and organization of the information on that page, and that's why we do the intake, because you've got to assume that, that in that first 30 seconds, they're going to get to 2 of the 10 things that you want to have them say. And, a lot of our customers, and we've done a fair amount of research on this, they actually judge the business by how the website looks, not what's in it, okay? Right? So if you have, and so we spend a lot of time on image management. We have a pretty complex system of attributed images that we use in the websites. We ask the customers questions about, so for instance, pictures of people. You would think, okay, they're pictures of people, but in truth, what's really going on is that there is a spectrum of the level of how posed the pictures are, and the level of what the level of the atmospheric level of the lighting is, right? And one of the things that we've seen that is significant is over the last 2 years, there has been a shift towards what we call kind of more documentary photography, documentary images as opposed to the kind of well-lit studio images of the professional-looking people that show up on a lot of these websites. That's not what people want to see anymore. They actually want to see people in situ. They want to see them at work. They want to see them in their natural environment, right? And so we have licensed and compiled and organized a list of about 35,000 images covering people, places, and things in all the categories that we operate in, and we're continually upgrading it.
That's it? Also, and then Brian. Is there somebody else? Yeah, Quentin and then Brian.
A couple of comments, Keep It Quirky, the buy local group, is
Yeah.
very, very pleased to be participating in this. It seems to be working. We get an email, I'm a recipient, so it says, here's an email with a Keep It Quirky logo at the top, so I know it came from my friend. And of course, I'm looking at it differently because I want to see who all my
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I also have always believed, especially for the small business, that big media likes to push the idea of branding kind of as a means to take your eye off the sales that need to happen in the near term to survive. And then, in my view, the branding comes when consumers have what you sell in their hands and tell their friends about it.
Right.
And you either meet or don't meet expectations.
Yeah.
You guys seem to take that into account, and I want to tip a hat. I've gotten some very aggressive offers from Scala that I know historically you might not have considered.
Yeah, they worked well for him.
Right.
It's interesting because we spend a lot of time and effort. One of the things that we do is we have another side product, for our larger customers where we basically can match their email list with Facebook and run ads in Facebook. So we use Facebook as a testing platform. So before we send the ads out for some of our bigger customers, we actually run them in Facebook against their customer base to see how they respond to them. And one of the things that's interesting about it is that is that, you know, we run a matrix. So we run 3 different offers, we run 3 different pictures, and we run 3 different sets of copy, right? So 27 combinations, right? And, you know, what we found is that the images actually have a disproportionate impact. You know, we would have thought, oh, well, you know, it's the value of the offer. But actually, the same, you know, the same rules as with websites apply to the offers. If they see, in Scalo's case, it was the picture of the 2 women of unknown age, okay, you know, sharing a cocktail in the daylight, okay, you know, that boosted Scalo's brunch traffic on Sunday by 20% in a week.
Brian?
So you described your prices relative to your competitors, but not in any kind of absolute terms. If I come in, talk to you one time, and want to start a campaign,
Yep.
how much is that going to cost?
Well, the base price is $69 a month, okay? And we operate in the same way that most of the big email service providers operate, so we have volume-based pricing. So probably our largest customer is MBD Express, which has about 45,000 emails. You know, they spend about $300 a month. So from a media perspective, you know, this is the best thing, this is the best deal of a, you know, this is a deal of a lifetime. I can tell you because I've sold a lot of expensive media, this is a good deal.
I had a chance to hear, one of the reasons you're here today is I saw Bill Bice last week. He was talking to the Hispanic Chamber.
Yep.
And, you know, I'd heard about Boomtime for a number of years, but really it's to me, that's the thing that I think was, and what you were previously saying about this ability to test. It's something that local business doesn't really have an opportunity to compete with, you know, the major players. So I love the idea that you can actually have an opportunity to bundle, you know, local companies and you know, compete at scale. So I don't know if there's a question in there, but that's pretty neat.
Well, you know, I mean, one of the things to understand about what we're doing is that, you know, I mean, I've spent the last 20 years, you know, building high-tech media solutions for people, right? And one of the observations that I had was that most of the people that our customers compete with, which are big national brand chains, multi-outlet chains. That's the enemy for our customers, right? And you know, they use very sophisticated technology, but it's not beyond the reach of the people that we're working with. And so one of the reasons I came to Boomtime was because Bill and the technology team he had put together have, you know, they're the most productive person-to-person technology organization that I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of them, and a lot of big ones, right? And so our ability to basically modify the products, pivot, and deliver to small businesses the same quality of products that, you know, that they get from big, you know, that the national chains get from big agencies, has become much more feasible in the last couple of years. If you look at what Google and Facebook in particular are doing, and Twitter to a lesser extent, they're basically pushing the technology into a place where you can meet it with tools that actually can be used by small businesses. So you could think of our business as basically one where we're focused on, you know, a layer of marketing services technology, you know, and a set of APIs. So when I came, you know, Bill had built a custom-based service, you know, which was right at the time, and we moved over to a model so that, you know, we use Amazon AWS, we use NEC2, we use the WordPress platform. You know, we basically are an intermediary to these massive platforms that are out there that are competing to basically build APIs that we can then use to essentially humanize the technology experience for our customers, because they get overwhelmed. They have no clue to begin with, frankly, and then they get overwhelmed when they see it. And so our job basically is to manage that layer. So we're a managed service company, right? You know, and we use technology to help our customers basically access the same tools and underlying technology that their national competitors have. Yeah?
I came in a little late, I apologize for that. You said $69 a month.
Yeah.
Can you summarize that in a minute? What are we getting for $69?
Yeah, so basically what we do, as I said, we run a managed service. So what we do is we actually build the ads, help the business put together the network, send the emails out to them, and then report back to the customer, right? Our customers don't have the time to do this. Most of them don't have the skills to do it either, right? You know, but the bottom line is that it's time more than anything else that's the real constraint. We have, you know, a lot of pretty sophisticated customers who understand what they should be doing, you know, but there's nobody in their organization to do it. I mean, you have to be a certain size, you know, to basically hire a marketing manager. And frankly, hiring a marketing manager is a bit of a crapshoot. You know, because basically a lot of them actually don't know how to use the tools in the way that they should be using them. And so, you know, our approach to this really is to provide a turnkey service, and this is what frankly made traditional media, local media successful. If you think about the newspapers, the classified people, the yellow pages people, the coupon people, you know, their model was, I'll write the copy for you, I'll get the audience for you, you send me the check. Okay, and that's what the beauty of it. That's why it worked. I mean, that's why the Yellow Pages became so enormous, was because they had a, you know, when I was at Yale, I had, you know, about 400 people, okay, who worked in advertising creation and the website stuff. And basically, they were very skilled at building ads for small businesses in our digital directory and in the declining print directories, you know, that actually worked for the customer. So they had an intake process that was not as sophisticated as what we have, but you know, it worked, right? Because they were able to pull out of the business, well, what's the most important thing that you're doing? What are your brands? And they were able to basically put it into a compelling format for the business.
So you're building websites for people and then sending them out?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, actually, you know, we're probably the most efficient producer of websites maybe in the world, right? You know, we got this down to a point where we can do a 45-minute intake, and we create what we call a design package, which is a highly structured, you know, document that we'll actually, you know, that we're beginning to automate and integrate into the system.
You get all the mechanics done at $69 a month to this,
Yes.
and that's for, what's the question?
The question was, what was the, you know, what did you get for your $69 a month? Okay, and the answer is that you get a managed service where we do all the work for you, you know, and then we report back to you. And our business model is, we send the design package to, you know, we have people here, you know, so our process is we have this design package that has all of the information that we've extracted from the customer. Oh, we host it for them, and we basically manage it for them. So they can call us, you know, normal business hours, you know, East Coast, West Coast, and we'll make the changes for them. So we basically do all the work for them. So we put it up, we host it. Well, we are, so I'm not sure I understand the question. So,
Are you hosting it with online directories?
no, because basically, you know, it costs too much money to do that, and that's why we created the Reach product. And you know, there are a lot of people in this marketplace who basically try to sell search engine optimization to small businesses, and you know, the truth is that it doesn't really work anymore. You know, Google's never liked it, okay, and their algorithms have gotten increasingly sophisticated, you know, and they basically, you know, they put out, you know, that fire, you know, some time ago. And so, you know, the bottom line is that this is really driven by word of mouth, right? And it's driven by word of mouth that comes from, you know, having a solid reputation, a solid product in the marketplace, and a solid experience with the customer, and that's why we developed the Reach product, was because we concluded that that was the easiest way. The Reach product is a product that we have, which is an email networking product, where we group businesses together and manage their collective emails and allow them to cross-market, cross-promote to each other's customers.
Right, one last quick question, and then.
What happens with your customers that already have an existing website? What do you do in that case?
Well, I mean, so if they have an existing website, you know, look, 70% of the people, traditionally 30% of all businesses were in market. They change their websites every 3 years. That number has gone up to somewhere between 50 and 70% because most of the websites out there don't work on mobile devices. And our websites are designed mobile first because 70% of the traffic comes from them. So if they have a website, we ask them some questions about it. But you know, we're not in the business of basically throwing people under the bus. It's not good for our relationship with the customer. They know if their website is not as good as it should be.
So the last question we always ask,
Yeah.
what can we as a community do for you in Boomtime?
Well, actually what you can do is on Friday, and you guys are now under embargo along with the press. On Friday, you can go up to makeemboom.com and you can pick a charity and you can pick an artist and you can post it to your favorite social media site, because we're running a contest, you know, to try to benefit these charities and generate donations.
What charities?
What? What charity? Make 'em Boom, MakeemBoom. So Heading Home, Cachette, YMI, the New Mexico Philharmonic, Mandy's Farm, And the rest of them are a bit of a blur to me right now, to be perfectly honest with you. But what we did do, and so we sat down with Kelly Cooper from the Albuquerque Community Foundation and spent a couple hours with her basically building the list, because what I was interested in was basically having a mix of more more highly evolved local charities and very small ones. And I'll give you an example, and then I'll get off the stage. One of the ones that we have is a charity called Global Opportunities that's run by a guy named Dustin Berg, who was paralyzed in a motorcycle accident about 10 years ago, and started a charity to help give outdoor experiences to disabled people, right? You know, when I talked with him on the phone the first time, he was taking a group of people hunting, right, you know, in wheelchairs, which I thought was very interesting, you know, and I called him back up the next week and I said, how did it go? And he said, well, none of us shot each other, right, you know. But, you know, he's very small and people don't know about them, right, you know, and so we tried to pick charities that actually helped people who were disabled, homeless, you know, people basically who need help in this community. And there are, honestly, a lot of them. Right, you know, one of my observations about Albuquerque is that, you know, is that the charitable giving in this community, while it is substantial, needs to be boosted, you know, significantly in order to address, you know, many of the issues that I see on the streets on a daily basis in the city.
Thank you so much. All right. Perfect lead in. There's a bit of a theme going on this morning. So it's the pre-Thanksgiving, it's also sort of the giving thanks edition of 1 Million Cups. We want to give thanks to our sponsors, and we've got like a special guest, but then I will sort of frame this. If you haven't heard, one of the things we're asking for is if you have a success to celebrate, if you want to give thanks to someone in the community, some organization that's helped you out, we'd love to invite you up here to give, fairly brief, maybe a minute or so, just that kind of thank you. Before we kick into that, I want to thank, this is a really helpful reminder. So Savio Systems, Nick's here. We've got the Savio Systems team here. We want to thank them for being our coffee sponsor. How about a round of applause for it? Because I think we need caffeine. I know that I personally do. We want to thank Lisa and Stuart and Fat Pipe ABQ, great home for this event on a regular basis. I'd say C&M Stimulus Center, how many of you have actually seen this at home or seen this on YouTube? You're here. Okay, well, a few of us have. How many of you have seen this at home? So C&M helped out with some of the equipment necessary to do our broadcast on a regular basis. We also have Nick Lehman Media, who is essential to making that video happen. We've got Technology Ventures Corporation, we've got Booyah Media, we've got Emergent Wave, Hartford Square also helps out with coffee. I'm missing probably 2 or 3, but we want to thank all the people that helped make this happen. And I'll stand out of the way of this. And the donuts from Noventum. Yes, Brian and Noventum. The donuts are really, really helpful. And now, as part of kicking off that giving thanks and all that, we'd like to invite up Annie Sanchez. She is the communication specialist for the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. And they've got a campaign going on that we'd like to hear a little bit more about.
Thank you, Eric. Hi, everyone. So I am the communications specialist, as Eric said, for the Center for Nonprofit Excellence, which is out of the United Way of Central New Mexico. The Center for Nonprofit Excellence, or CNPE, is a professional development center for nonprofit staff and volunteers. That's the heart of what we do. We provide nonprofit training and such, online resources on our website, centerfornonprofitexcellence.org. Naturally, we were approached by a local nonprofit to help market #GivingTuesdayNM, which is coming up on December 1st. It's part of a nationwide campaign. It's a day of giving. Think of it as sort of the antidote to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So giving back on that Tuesday to a nonprofit in your community, just showing how you can give your time, your money is huge for a community. So as we've learned, New Mexico has a lot of really, really involved community members, whether they're giving their time or their money. So again, #GivingTuesdayNM, #GivingTuesdayNM, pardon me, is a way that we can all do more together.